So it's so hard to condense down 5 years of living in the presence of Swami, doing service for that time, and learning so much directly from Swami, so much from the formless Swami. And that's another thing that that you may think that simply living in front of Swami, living in the presence of his physical form, is that much different than being here. Yes, it's true, we can see him walk, but I've experienced that first 6 months that I lived there, I had a lot of attention, and Swami was basically taking this person who was going this way and pulled him to go this way, taking me out of my mind, like I thought my mother was, and making me truly out of my mind and into my heart. And after those 6 months, I'll fill you in what happened in those 6 months, but after that 6 months, Swami told me in an interview, he says, "You worry if Swami doesn't look at you and talk to you. Don't worry if Swami doesn't look at you and talk to you." And I thought, no problem. That's not a problem. Swami doesn't look at me and talk to me, or I don't feel him, that presence with me. So right immediately after that interview, for 3.5 years, except for when we would go, Swami invited us into Kodaikanal, into the house with the students, but everything in between, Swami totally ignored me for those 3.5 years. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy to do because it's so easy to get attached to his form. It's so easy to want that kind of a recognition, but that's not the relationship Swami is trying to develop in us. Swami's form is beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful forms there is. But Swami is trying to teach us to carry him within us. So going back to that last interview, I may share some more of it if there's time. But at the end of that interview, after blowing me away totally, and I'll leave the beautiful part at the end of this talk if there's time. But Swami turns to my mother and says, "You run canteen and son helps." And I'm of course, after this interview, I'm in some other world, so I couldn't comprehend what that meant. And my mother, of course, all she wanted to do was serve at Swami's feet. And so she asked Swami, "When?" And Swami says, "Tomorrow." And how we do things is we put a planning committee together. We set up dates and we do all these things because we think we need all those things in order to get things done, but not with Swami. And that's one of the first miracles, because right out of that interview, as we're leaving, people started coming up to us and saying, we heard that the Western Canteen's opening and you're going to be running it, and we want to work with you doing service. Well, how did that information, Swami just told us just a few minutes ago in the interview. That's because he's the doer. What he wills happens. And sure enough, that afternoon we went into the canteen. It's usually only open at that time for big functions. So just think, it's all dusty and everything, and it's large. And we all went in there and just started doing the cleaning from the very bottom, cleaning everything, getting everything ready. We ran off and got bread to make toast. We ordered the milk. We got just the simple, we got oats and cereals, and we basically the next morning opened for breakfast. And that's how it all started. And Swami first, the way he is, he starts out small and then grows and grows and grows. And and that's the beautiful thing, is what Swami does is he pulls us in. He asks us to surrender to him, which he did to me. He took me to the point where I offered my body, my mind, and my spirit to him. So now what? You do his work. That's why we're in the body, to do his work. And we have to learn, what does Seva do for us? It makes us to learn to become selfless. And how is that done? By doing it with love. I remember everything that we were doing there, I felt I was doing for him. When I served the people outside and fed the food, I felt I was serving him. And the amount of miracles that happened is unimaginable. I'll tell you one of them. So we think that everyone needs to be, all the service people need to come like 4:30 in the, no, it's like 5:30, 6 in the morning to start cutting the vegetables so that it's ready and prepared for after breakfast that we can start cooking the lunch. And these are pots that are this big, this deep. And so we're thinking, we get into this kind of habit, oh, everyone's going to show up, right? And what Swami does is, oh, you're expecting that all these people are going to come. And sure enough, one morning, no one came in the morning. We have buckets and buckets of vegetables that we had picked out, because what we have to do, we wake up in the morning, 4 o'clock, because the milk comes at that time, to put the milk up to boil, to start making the breakfast. And this goes on until 9, 10 in the evening, when we go up to the room and just collapse. But it's such a good feeling. You go to sleep, there's no dreams, there's no nothing. You're basically so tired. But this morning, no one came. And so my mother, she's got so much faith. She says, I'm not worried. Swami's going to take care. And this is my early times there. I'm thinking, yeah, but who's going to really actually cut the vegetables? How is this going to get done? And I remember Swami turning to me in an interview, and he's talking to a group from the Philippines, so loving and sweet. And then he turns to me, doubting Thomas. And then he said he's so nice, it's materialized. Doubting Thomas. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and we don't realize the kind of doubts that have in our mind. I fully believe Swami can materialize anything, but here I'm worried about if the vegetables are going to get ready. So what happens, finally, people show up around 10:30, and we should have had them at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So all the vegetables are ready, and everything is cut and prepared 10 minutes before service. 10 minutes before service. It's not possible. I said to my mother, well, we need to delay lunch. No, my mother said, Swami wants lunch at 12 o'clock. We open at 12. So what happens? My mother says, get all the buckets, get everything, the spices, the oil, the food, everything, put it all in there. And she closed the top of this big lid, this huge pot, and put her hand on it and looked at Swami's picture and said, Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, and then turned to everyone and says, nobody opens this lid until 12 o'clock. And so she had absolute faith in Swami. And so exactly at 12 o'clock, my mother opens the lid. It's steaming, hot, perfect, ready to serve. Isn't that? Thank you, Swami. And this is what would happen almost on a regular basis. I mean, these kinds of things, but the most beautiful thing that I noticed was people from all around the world. They come from far, near, and wide, and they come and so with almost tears in their eyes, they say, is it possible to do service in the canteen? And my mother said, of course, and come. Really? We can do service? I remember the Japanese would come and they just cried that they're able to actually do something for Swami, do something for his devotees. And when they would leave, they would almost want to touch my mother's feet, and my mother would go, no, say thank you to Swami. But it's so much love in their hearts that the people would come. So after my first interview, remember, I did not know how to picture who Swami is. I thought, I didn't know who he was, but now I felt like he was my father, my real spiritual father. And so I felt like I'm his son. As I said, I had this deep, deep feeling I'd love to live a life like Jesus. And Jesus was his son. Can I be his son? So the morning after that first interview, I'm sitting outside, and as Swami passes by, I hear his voice inside me, that phrase from the Bible. It says, "This is my son, in whom I am well pleased." And I said, "Swami, I'll do anything for you." So I thought, a little bit of a doubting Thomas in my head. Maybe I just wanted to say that for myself, right? It's nice feeling to feel like I'm his son. But only he can really say that. So we were doing seva for about a month and a half or two in Prashanti, and then it was time for Swami to go to Whitefield. And Whitefield, there's a kitchen there, a little bit smaller, and Swami says, "Come and you cook there too." So we got all the buses and the vans and everything, and we packed up and moved everything over there, and we set up shop, and we started to figure out how everything is there. It's much smaller, but it's modern and very nice. And the thing is that the kitchen is actually its veranda is right facing where Swami would give darshan. There was a large banyan tree there. Was there a long time. And so the kitchen doors would open up to that, and we'd actually have to open them because it got so hot in the kitchen. And so I think maybe a few days after setting up the canteen, my mother and I, the timings of darshan are different, so we couldn't go to darshan in the afternoon. So what we would do is we would be cooking there, stirring the pot with these oars. They're literally oar-sized things. And we would crack open the door that faces outwards to the veranda to see Swami giving darshan. And so I'm stirring the pot here, and my mother cracks open the door, and you can hear the darshan music and everything, and suddenly my mother says, "Swami's coming." I said, "What do you mean? I know he's out there." "No, he's coming here." Swami left the whole crowd. He left the whole crowd and starts walking up the little veranda thing, and my mother goes, "Oh my gosh, the floor," because she's worried about Swami's feet on the dirty floor. I mean, I wasn't thinking about that. I'm just thinking, oh, is he going to look at me? Is he going to talk to me? She is just, that's ego, right? But not my mother. She's like, she's thinking about Swami. And so she quickly gets something, wipes it up, and opens the door so Swami can come in. The door is right here. It's a double door. My mother's standing there. And Swami walks in and comes right up to my mother and says, "Where's my son?" And I go, "Swami, I'm here." And only Swami can do this. Only God can do this. He absolutely started behaving as if I do not exist. He did not, and you can feel it. You can feel it from someone else when they're faking that they're not hearing you. But Swami, the feeling and the emotion and just the presence was like, I was not there. And then Swami again asked my mother, "Where is my son?" And my mother, she's intelligent. She knows exactly what Swami's doing. Here's Krishna just walked into the canteen. And so she says, "I don't know, Swami." Now my mother's playing the game. And I'm going, oh, I feel as if I'm abandoned. Swami had stolen my heart, and I couldn't stand it, not seeing him. And now I don't exist. So then Swami then walks over to one of the pots with the big oars, and he actually picks it up and stirs the food, which of course is him blessing the food. And then he continues to walk into the serving area where the women area is, and I'm following, and Swami keeps saying, "Where's my son?" he leans over the lady's serving area and he says, "Where's my son?" And I'm behind him. "Swami, I'm here." And it's getting painful. And so he turns over to go towards where there's a refrigerator. And I'm not joking here. Swami opens the refrigerator, looks in and says, "Where's my son?" I'm not laughing. My mother is almost breaking apart. You know, she's giggling and laughing, trying to contain it, not to ruin Swami's play. And he goes into the vegetable room, which is a smaller room, and asks the same question. And he turns around and he comes right to me. He's looking right through me. No one can do that. I did not exist. And finally, I fall on my knees in front of him. And he says, "Where?" Finally, Swami's like, he had enough. "Where is my son?" I'm almost crying. And I said, "Swami, I'm here." And Swami then looks down and, like a child who found his toy, says, "Ah, there you are." And I felt like lost and found. And what's the significance of this? What is the significance of this? It's two things. One is, this is our relationship with God is a love story. It's a story of him making you pine for him, making you feel as if he's far away. I mean, if everything was hunky-dory all the time, would we be thinking of him? No. And I forgot the name of that beautiful, what's her name? Who basically always prayed to Krishna for difficulties. Mira. And Krishna asked her, "Why do you keep praying that you have difficulties?" And she said, "Because then, Kunti. Why?" Yeah, that's right. Why do you keep praying for this? And she says, because then I'm always thinking of you. And then there's the other side of the coin, which is we are the ones who run away from Swami too. We are the ones who go away. We go away from our surrender to him. We go away when we see something shiny, right? Things in the world which are fun and interesting. We go away. Some of us go away with different philosophy, a different guru, a different this, and we just love all these shining lights. But Swami played this game with me, and after he looked down at me and said that, he then looks over into the ladies' into where the dining hall, and he points to a chair, and he looks down at me and says, "Who's sitting in that chair?" And I'm like, maybe Swami can see somebody sitting there, but I can't. So I go, "Swami?" And then he takes his finger and he puts it on my heart. And he says, "Who's sitting in that chair? Is it wife? Is it Sai Baba? This is not a musical chair." And Swami then gets up and he walks, and my mother follows him, and Swami leaves the canteen. What's the significance of this? Well, yes, as I mentioned before, I was married before, and yeah, I would think and worry about that person, but it has a larger connotation than that. This is no disrespect to the ladies or wives or whatever, but Swami does say that, what does WIFE mean?
Wisdom invited forever.
Okay, that's the good one. But in this case, what it worked out for me is worry invited forever. And I'm not saying that, no, actually, I'm not saying that at all, that's what a wife is. Actually, a wife, as Swami says, is a chisel. So, but in this case, wife, I didn't understand why he was saying this. No, I understand that, but I started to think more about this. But then what happened every day, almost every day, I'd sit in darshan, and I'm in bliss waiting for Swami's darshan, thinking he's God. and not a thought in this world to worry about what I left behind at home, and that after 6 months I have to go back and try to get a job and I have no money. I left all of that away in my head. But Swami would come by and sweetly and then just look down and say, "How's your wife?" And then my head would start to spin. What does he mean, wife? I'm thinking all these things in my head and questions and everything. So this goes on for some time. Swami bugging me about this, always saying this, until one day Swami in Vrindavan calls us for an interview, my mother and I. And I think that at that time still Lad's group would come in with us, but maybe not on this one. And this is a story I told actually the SSE kids downstairs. So what does Swami recommend for us to do with our mind? What do we do with our troubles? What is it that we do? And here comes this beautiful lesson taught by the master of masters in a very physical way that I'm surprised that it was acted out that way. And it's acted out for all of you. So we sit down and Swami, we all sitting in a circle, and Swami materializes a diamond ring, and he looks at it and he throws it to me like this. And I catch it, but it's so heavy, it falls down. I pick it up immediately, like, oops, I dropped it. I hope it didn't break. And then Swami says, pass it around, and I passed it around. And each person would look at it for a few moments until I think it was one gentleman, he stopped and really started looking at it. And Swami says, hey, it's not for you, pass it around. And so, and everything Swami does in an interview has a meaning. That person needed to hear that, and we don't know why. But every little thing in that interview, the way Swami spoke, what he said, and especially when Swami says something very, very almost harsh to somebody, that person can take it, and they understand it, but actually another person, it was meant for that person to hear. But if Swami would have said it to that person, it would have been too much to hear directly. That is the love of the true master, of the true God. And so Swami was very direct with me because I think he needed to break me down. So finally that finishes, and Swami asks the group, the other group that's there, to get up and go into the private interview room. And as you know, Swami was always bugging me about wife. You think of wife. And actually, I forgot to tell you this, in an interview before this, I was sitting right next to Swami, and Swami began to ask people what they want. And each person, Swami, I need a job when I go back. And Swami says, yes, I'll give that. And then Swami stopped, and instead of asking people, he started saying, you do good service, very good service. You're a good worker. And Swami started going around telling each person what they're good at. And then Swami changed over now again, starting asking one person asked Swami, what will you give me? And so he was telling each person, and then he came and stopped and looked at my mother and says, to you, I will give you everything. And what that meant for her was, what is everything? What does everything mean? That means later on she heard this was her last life. Swami had told her no more birth, no more death. That's when you have everything. Because everything is nothing, nothing is everything. And then I heard Swami saying this to everyone. I said, what about me, Swami? And then he turned to me and he says, and interesting how he says, but to you, I will give you God's work. And I guess I'm up here and I'm doing service and I'm living here and being here. It's God's work, right? So anyway, then Swami, after he said that beautiful thing to me, again, he likes to twist. He says, you're thinking of wife right now. And sure enough, that's the thing about the mind. You can be thinking of the most beautiful thing, and then suddenly something else comes, a worry in your mind, right? In that instant, Swami turned, you're thinking of wife. And then he says, do you want me to bring her here? I'll bring her here right now. And he was ready to snap his finger to bring her here. And I immediately said, Swami, no, 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 no. And everyone burst out laughing. And Swami also acted like he's laughing, goes, ha, 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 and he comes down with his hand and slaps me in the back so hard, I thought my heart was going to come out of my mouth. And I realized right then, Swami was whacking the karma out of me. He was whacking that thing that was in me that was stuck about this. So a week after that, we get this next interview where Swami materialized that ring, and now he's asking the people to go into the private interview room. And as he gets up to go in, he looks at me and he starts to wave his hand real big like this. And suddenly in his hand is now this round, what I thought first was a ball. It was a dark purple, blue, very dark ball. And he walks over to me and he's going like this to give it to me. And so I'm going like this. And he goes, no, 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 for me to open my mouth. And so I open my mouth and he drops this round object into my mouth and he begins to walk away slowly. And as he walks away, I feel like it's soft. And so I start to bite down on it. And it was the sweetest, most heavenly, unbelievable tasty plum that I've ever tasted. And then as my teeth started to go down and just to touch the seed, Swami immediately turns around and says, don't eat the seed is wife. Now I'm going to tell you what happens next, and let's see if you figure out what's going on here. So I immediately understand deep inside what's going on. So I get up, and Swami is now walking into the private interview room. He's done with me. And I'm walking up, and I spit the seed in my hand, and he's turning around to see why I'm following him, as if he doesn't know what's going on. And I go like this. And Swami puts out his hand as if he doesn't know what's in my hand. He goes, what? And I drop the seed in his hand. And I hear a gasp from some of the people like, oh, it must have been, how dare you take something that's in your hand and put it in God's hand? And I feel, and I'll explain to you what's going on in me, but to me, that seed, Swami said, is wife. What is a seed? What is worry? Worry is something that's in our mind that grows from a small seed. You think of one thing just for a moment, but then what we like to do is feed it. We constantly think about it over and over, and we're planting it in the ground. And what happens? It begins to turn into first a branch, then a big tree, and finally you can't deal with it anymore. And to me, I said, the only way to stop Swami from bugging me about this, but not bugging me, but the real answer to this is to give it to him. I am not in control. My mind does not belong to me. For heaven's sake, on March 4th, 1992, I gave it to him. But what do we constantly do? We take it back. And we say, no, I got to figure this out. I have to do this. I'm the doer. And so I put it in Swami's hand, and what does he do? What does he do? I go and I sit back, I sit down, and I felt like mission accomplished. I absolutely felt as if something had been relieved from me. I don't have to think about this anymore. It's over. I have given it to the Lord. Swami then walks back out, walks around his chair. There's another door over there, which is a small washroom. And Swami goes in there, and you hear him turn on the faucet. You hear the water running. You hear Swami washing his hands. And he comes out, and he goes, all gone. And I was in bliss. What a lesson. You give it to the Lord. He's the one who washes it away. And after that, he never went through that same route of where's wife or where's this. I mean, this again, this happened to me physically with him, but this is what we need to be doing on a daily basis. This practice. You know, it was asked by one of the young adults, and it's something I have to remind myself, is that spirituality is something like learning to play an instrument. You know, we watch these masters who play the tabla or the guitar or any of these amazing people who can just play the most beautiful music, and you think that just because of talent? There is talent there, but they started when they were 4 years old, and they did it till their fingers bled. They did it first because their teacher, no, you keep doing it. I know you don't like it now, but soon you will understand why. And they practiced and practiced until finally they no longer felt there's an instrument there. It was an extension of their body. And now the pure self of theirs could just flow through without the encumbrance of the instrument. And that's the same thing. That's what our bodies are. And that's why Swami gives us the different disciplines to constantly do these disciplines. For some people, it is doing meditation. Some people, it is doing service. Some, it's a combination. Everyone is different. But the whole key to it is to transform these bodies into, what does Krishna have in his hand? A flute. And is that flute, is it solid? No, it's hollow. You cannot play a flute that's solid. It won't make any sound. So that flute is Krishna's flute, is what we must become. We need to become empty so that he can fill us. So back to continuing this journey. So you may think that you learn one lesson, I'm his son, right? So we go into an interview and Swami asks me, who are you? And of course I'm all proud, not proud, but very happy to announce that, Swami, I'm your son. And Swami goes, no. You're my reflection. What does that mean? You're my reflection. And I'll answer this, that before my heart was open to Swami, before that block of being able to feel the purity that's in our hearts, what did I see Swami as? What did I see the Lord as? I saw him as a man. I saw him with all the doubts. And where was that coming from? Did something outside change? Was it Swami who changed? No, it was the thing that's inside of me. And as Swami says, that the world outside of you is nothing but a reflection of your inner being. Here's a very simple way of looking at it. You wake up in a bad mood. Last night, you didn't sleep well, you ate something bad, you wake up that morning, everything that yesterday may have looked beautiful to you, how does it look? It looks miserable. You don't feel well. You don't notice the rose. You don't notice those things. And that's similar how it is inside of us. The mind has all these layers and covers that prevent us from seeing the divine. When Swami looks out at us He says, I don't see anything but beauty. I see myself in the chair, in each person. And why does he come out for darshan? Why is all of this put together? Why did Swami put all of this together, us together? Why? Because Swami comes for love. Swami feeds on love. He gives love. And that's what reflects back out to us. But if there's this dirt, that's going to happen. So Swami tells me, I'm your reflection. And to add to this, here's me and my very open way of talking with Swami. I have seen Swami say one thing to somebody and say a totally different thing to another person. And I've heard him say in this discourse, this is what you should be doing. And another discourse, he says, this is what you should be doing. And so in an interview, while there was a pause, I said, Swami, and he looks at me and I said, Swami, why do you lie? And I hear people go, and you would think Swami's like, hey, why are you saying this? I'm Satya and all that. And Swami sweetly turns to me and says, because I am your reflection. I am your reflection. You only see that which is within you. If you see Swami as, this bad guy who does this and that, look inside. And the same thing with the person at work, with the person that you see as, oh, that's a bad guy, he's not nice to me. Look at yourself. And if you really look at yourself and transform your inner side, you will be amazed what happens and reflects back outwards. I've had it many times where that person becomes a good friend. And it's not because I told him something or I forced him on anything. Everyone is attracted to that light that's in us. That's what we carry. That's what Swami's given each one of us, a light to carry. We are that spark that Swami's fertilized out to the world. You don't know the transformation that you are bringing about with all the people who don't even know him. And you don't even have to say anything. The most important thing in spirituality is one word, is intensity. People have asked me, how is it that you keep your devotion? How is it that you keep on this road? And to me, I fan that intensity. Because this is our chance. I mean, this kind of a chance, Swami said, this avatar will not come again for eons. This phenomenon has not happened before. And I don't want to miss that chance. I'm sure you don't want to miss that chance. So we for those first 6 months, Swami showered a lot of attention and a lot of these teachings that I'm sharing with you. And one of the ones that I had constantly asked Swami, because as you know, I grew up with the influence of J. Krishnamurti, with my father, he was very intellectual. And then there was my mother, who was pure love, devotion. And so I asked Swami, please show me how to really get back to God. What is the direct route to God? And this I'll share with you is so, so beautiful, so pregnant with an answers. So after 3 months of that first 3 months, my heart was totally, I was a bhakta. I was totally, I couldn't stand not seeing him. And he had told us that he's going to to Hyderabad for something, and not to come, but keep the canteen open. I will be gone for 3 days. 3 days for me then was like, oh, how am I going to handle this? And that's the phase I was going through. And so the 3 days went by, and I missed him so much. And on the third day, he came back in the afternoon, and I went for darshan. And sitting there, got first row, and Swami, the darshan music started. And they play this various different music for darshan. And this afternoon, it was my favorite. It's like, wow, Swami just put on my favorite one. And Swami, from a distance, he was quite far away, I smell his perfume. There's one thing that happens that when you're in the presence of Swami, it's not a perfume, it's just the smell of divinity. His avatar is just unimaginable, but he has this beautiful fragrance. And suddenly I look over at him, and he's coming, and that fragrance envelops me. And I'm now, oh my gosh, the love inside of me is growing. And he's coming, and as he's coming closer and closer, this love that I felt just keeps growing and growing. And I feel, okay, this is probably as high as love can be in your heart. No, it just kept going and growing. And it was like every step he was taking, this feeling of love. And it's a love, I mean, take the love that you have for your mother and multiply it 1,000 more. And it was a feeling, the kind of divine love you would think is a duality, and it's not. The feeling of it is absolute union. And as he's coming around, it just keeps growing and growing. And each step is like, this is it. I can almost not keep my eyes open. I'm shaking. And every step, 1,000 more. And finally, he's maybe this far away. He takes the next step, and it grows to infinity. And suddenly my eyes just close, and I feel like I'm rushing down towards something. And as I'm rushing down towards it, I see this cloth in front of me, like a handkerchief. Have you heard Swami talk about the handkerchief? What is the mind? Swami says the mind is nothing but a bundle of threads, like bundle of thoughts, like a handkerchief. Swami would pick up the handkerchief. What happens when you start pulling out these threads? And this is what was happening. Now, just to give some background about the big issue that happens in this, next to me is sitting a gentleman that was from Germany, and Swami had sent him to the canteen to help us work. His personality was exactly like the personality that I didn't get along with my father. And he rubbed me the wrong way a lot of the time. And I actually one day blew up on him in the morning. And he looked at me like, oh, what's going on? And that morning, Swami came in darshan, and he looked at me, and he told us to go in for an interview and said, you got angry at him. Why did you get angry at him? And I said, Swami, I don't. And then he says, why shouldn't you get angry at him? And I said, because Swami, he is you. And he says, yes, I am him. Don't get angry at Swami. So now this young man is sitting next to me, and still the karmic things that you think you can run halfway around the world to get away from something you haven't dealt with here, it follows you in another person, in another situation. So he's sitting next to me. I'm going through this experience now where I am beyond bliss. This sense of Leslie is being pulled out, literally threads being pulled out. I can see them coming, going out. This rushing, and I know I'm going to die. Not this body, but me as an individual is fading away. Until finally the last thread is there. And there's this veil that I come to with the last thread that's blocking me from going through. And I know on the other side, there's no coming back. And guess what happens? A bad thought about this young man sitting next to me pops into my mind. And immediately all the threads start coming back together until finally the cloth is blocking this veil. And poof, I'm back out of this experience, coming out from being beyond bliss, and I'm back in my body. And Swami is maybe about 4 steps past me, and it felt like this had happened for an eon, this experience. And he walks away, and I'm coming back down, and I'm understanding what's going on, what the lesson was. I had asked Swami, what is the way to God? And Swami was showing it is love. All intense love for him. All intense, dedicated love for him. But then what did he show me? This event happening to me, where did it come from? It came from his grace. Where does love comes from his grace? These experiences that this happened, he was teaching me that the path to that end is with love. But here's the caveat. In my last interview before I came back, Swami told me I have to go back. And I said, it's time to go home. Not home, time to go back. I said, but Swami, all I want is you. All I want is liberation. And Swami says, yes, yes, but how can I give if the water in the pot is dirty? You understand? You know, we came into these bodies with these vasanas and karmas from past lives. And Swami, and this is the thing, is that only the avatar comes from within you to help you to get through these. And the most important thing is he does it in a patient manner. I know all of us are like, gosh, I've been a devotee this long, or I've been doing this thing that long. How come I haven't moved forward? And I've had Swami tell me in a dream when I was asking this, I felt like, Swami, I'm so stuck, I feel like I'm not progressing. And Swami put his arm around me and whispered in my ear and says, I'm keeping you low right now, but soon I'll use you fully. The thing about this is that he wants to make sure that all the things that you've come into this world in have been completed. Because if you try to go past this, you try to go to those higher places, and you still have those pieces of your mind, the vasanas in you, as Swami says, you'll experience those high things, but eventually you have to come back down and do this all over again. Leave it to him. Leave the end part of this to him. Leave the road to him. So, how much time do I have? 35 minutes? 25 minutes. Perfect. So, can I relate to you a very difficult... Today and tomorrow I'm going to relate to you 2 very trying trials that I had to go through. Would you like to hear those? Because it's always... I don't want to spin this, that spirituality is all these highs and these great things. They are. Swami will give you these experiences, but the important ones, really the important events, are those difficult ones. Because that's when we truly understand and truly can overcome. Swami can show you the way, but he can't do it for you. You have to do it. So after about 3 years of working in the canteen, I get this thought in my head that exactly what I was saying. I thought my spiritual progress is going too slow. I'm doing all this service and all this seva, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I would really love to read, like back to this thing about reading and get into Advaita. I really felt like Advaita is the way to go. And I know this is a perfect story for now because I hear a lot about this kind of a thing it's very popular and I'm going to tell you this story because there is danger in this. At least I went through something like this. So I have this small desire that I'd like to do this. Shortly after that desire was born in me, a vasana from my past life. One of the managers from the ashram comes and says, comes up to our room and says, "Madam, I came from Swami, and Swami says your son is not working in the canteen now." And I was like, woohoo! Now I have time to read and time to do these things. I'm going to focus on I am God. I'm going to focus that there's no difference between myself and God. And so I spent this time, I went outside the ashrama because they didn't have the books that I thought you're supposed to read, like the Puranas and Adi Shankara, some of these books and so on. So I started to read all this, and I started to do this other thing too, that I don't have a way of communicating directly with Swami. So I started to do this thing of I have a coin. And if I ask a question, I'll ask a question with a coin. I don't know if other people have done this. And so I started to rely on this coin. And Swami was taking me down a road in order to get something that was so deeply rooted in me. So I'm flipping the coin, asking questions, and it would, if I asked the same question 5 times, it would always answer the same thing. So I said, this is working. And so for the next, I think it's like 3 to 4 months, I'm absolutely in this mode that I am God. And I start to have these experiences and all these feelings that I'm not separate. And but at the same time, something is missing in it. But I'm thinking, no, there's something beyond all the things that Swami has already given me that's beyond that. I need to go for that. And so my mother doesn't know that I'm doing this. I'm kind of keeping it secret. And so I get to this point where through all the flipping of the coins, through all this feeling that everything is Maya, Swami is Maya, everything is Maya. The only thing that's real is me. And I'm not realizing who is that me that I'm saying. I'm mixing up this me, the small me, with the big me. I'm literally taking the bathwater and throwing the baby out with it. But even though I'm having all these experiences and everything, I'm thinking I'm going the right way. Not realizing I'm losing something. And I don't know, and I didn't know what it was until it hit me like a brick. So I actually predict that on the same day that I got my first interview, on March 4th, 1992, I will become fully self-realized. And I literally feel that all, that this duality is going to go away and everything. And sure enough, on March 4th, 1992, it's an absolutely gray day. That day comes, and I'm all prepared for it. And what happens? Nothing. And so the mind starts going, wait a minute, this was supposed to happen. The chit, this flipping said it was going to happen. I thought I'm ready for this. And so the next afternoon, so my mother couldn't get to darshan because there was a delivery that came late. And so I'm there in this dreary afternoon. I should have been liberated by now because I'm God. Everything else is illusion. My mother's illusion. Everything is illusion. This is what's going on inside of me. And Swami comes for darshan, and he looks down at me. And as I said, Swami is a reflection. He looks at me with this deadpan face, the same what was happening inside of me. I didn't realize I had lost my love for him. Because I had said, all of this is illusion. Everything, the only thing that's real is me, which is inside of me. There's no form, there's only formless. And so Swami looks deadpan at me and he says, go for interview. So I get up and walk, and I'm thinking, why do I need an interview? I'm God, I don't need an interview. Oh, maybe this is the Maya testing me, testing my faith. Can you see how crazy this is? So I go up to the veranda and I go in for the general interview. Swami is sweet and loving and shining with the other people. And when he turns to me, nothing. Because that's what was inside of me. There was no love inside of me. I was all in this heady kind of a thing in my head. And finally, Swami calls me for a private interview. He closes the door and he's about to sit down and he says, "Who are you?" And as if I'm going to answer something appropriate. And I said, "Swami, I am God and you are Maya." And Swami goes, "No, no, 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 no. I am God and you are my son." And here I am, I'm arguing to him because I have to keep my faith, what I believe. And I say back to him, "But no, Swami, I am God and you are Maya." And Swami is eventually almost ready to, as acting like he's ready to leave the room. And finally he asks me a question which I answer, which is a correct answer, but in my mind meant something different than what Swami, he says, "Where is God?" And for me, it's everywhere, because I am everything, right? Advaita says we're everything. There's only one. So I said, "Everywhere." And then Swami's happy. His face shines up and he starts sitting down and I start singing, "Yes." And you know what he does? He takes his hand and he twists my cheek like this. And the moment he twists my cheek like this, I feel my mind that had been spending this last 3-4 months creating this edifice, this glorious thing about who I am, start to crack. And I feel the pieces crumbling and I'm in myself trying to put them back. No, 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 no. I am God. I am God. This is all Maya. This is just a test. And then Swami says, "Okay, get up, go." And he gives me vibhuti, gives everyone vibhuti. And I'm like, why did this have to happen? Why did I have to have an interview? I don't need an interview. I'm God. So I then go back up to our flat. My mother's up there and, oh, here's the nail in the coffin for me. I almost forgot to say. So remember, Swami had sent that message that I don't need to work in the canteen. And I get to go off and do this insane thing that was happening. And Swami, after he twisted my cheek and he says, "Where's your mother?" And, my mother couldn't make it. And I said, "Swami, she couldn't make it. There was a delivery in the canteen." "Oh, she's working in the canteen." And then he says, "Aren't you working in the canteen?" Oh my gosh. Now it's like all doubts going on. Was I supposed to be there? Am I doing something wrong? What? My whole mind is just going like this until finally the interview's over. I get the vibhuti in my hands and I'm walking back up and I'm like, I'm going to get up to our flat and my mother's waiting there and she says, "Where have you been?" And I said, "I've been in an interview." And I show her the vibhuti packets and she says, "What happened?" And here it goes. For the next half an hour to 45 minutes, I tell her everything that I went through that I quickly just told here. I wish I could have spent more time on that. And after saying all this, she almost believed it. She almost believed that I'm the only thing that's real and she's Maya. This is the danger of the mind. This is the danger. We can pick up all these philosophies and people talking about this and that. It's so easy to trick other people to believe something because the mind can come up with the most beautiful explanations for things. And here I was saying this to my mother. She's almost believing it and I'm almost feeling like, good, I was right. But then she looks down, shakes her head and says, "No, I don't believe it." And I said, "Why?" She says, "Because there's no love in you." And that was like in me. I felt that whole thing that I'm trying to keep up, that Swami had broken. Because when when the Divine Master touches you, when he slapped me in my back, when he did this, he's now modifying you. He's saving me from this insanity. And I'm like, I got to go for a walk. And I went for a walk, and I walked around the ashram as many times until finally it was curfew, and the Sevadar says, you have to go back up to your room. And I was going back and forth in my head until finally I literally felt I don't believe anything anymore. I was absolutely empty. I was like a zombie. And I realized I had lost the most important thing that was given to me just 3 years ago. Was this divine love that was filling me to the brim, that made me whole. And I had literally destroyed it with this mind of mine. I went upstairs and I fell at Swami's altar and I said, Swami, I'm going to give away all these books, put them all, I will not read another book again. All I ask from you, Swami, even if you never look at me again, I never get to see you again, is please let me love you again. So I go to bed with tears. I wake up the next morning, and as I said, the day before, it was all foggy and dark. This morning, as we sat there for darshan, the sun came out. And as Swami came out, the music started, I suddenly felt Swami again in my heart. And I cried that whole darshan. And I thanked him for bringing back to me the most important, the most fundamental, is that of love in my heart. He brought that back in my heart. And guess what happened? 3.5 years later, or 4 years later, after 3.5 years of Swami not talking to me, we get into our first interview after that. And as we go inside to the private interview room, my mother and I are going in, and even before Swami and I are all sitting down, Swami turns to my mother and says, "This boy is crazy. He thinks he's God and I'm Maya." And my mother says, I know. And I said, Swami, no, he's crazy. And I said, I keep saying, but I don't think that way. He goes, shh. And he's talking with my mother how insane I was. And my mother, she's serious and she starts to cry. And she says, Swami, thank you for saving my son. And Swami turns over to me and he says, yes, I saved him again. And Swami will save you over and over. He will not quit. This is our mother of mothers. We've been stray children loving this, going around and doing all these things and following the mind. The mind is not important. The mind is meant to be trained, so eventually it doesn't become a burden. It becomes just a simple tool for you to do things. But eventually even that will fade. What's important is to foster and pray and keep the divine love in your heart. I hope all of you, all of us, would keep that in our heart. So how much time do I have? Am I over? 9 minutes. This experience was very powerful for me, and it made me understand the significance of that Swami says that love is God and follow love. So shortly after that, Swami, I got reinstated, and Swami then asked me to then become a public relations officer. And I was a person who would never, ever speak in public. This happening right now, before Swami transform me, would never happen. I'd be the shy person in the back. So because of that, Swami says, you become a public relations officer. If you say you can't, Swami says, go do. Right? Because why? The Atma's in you. Swami's in you. You can, if he wills it to be done, do it. It's us who puts this little box around us. I can't. So, but beautiful Swami, he called in another gentleman in with me who was actually a professional speaker. So he did awesome. He spoke the first day. He said, because we would take turns. So it was like, well, who should go first? I said, you go first. And I was writing down notes, asking him, the tips for how you speak. And then he says, yes, look at the public. If you see someone smiling, look at them. If you see someone sleeping, don't look at them. These kinds of things. But Swami told us exactly what we should be saying. He says, so many devotees come to the ashram and they don't understand the significance of the opportunity they have. He says they come one by one, young men, young women, and they leave two by two. That's not good. They go outside, they mix, they go to different gurus, they go here, they go there. So he explained to us what to speak. And so I started to talk, got a little bit more confident. After a while, I felt like I'm just a tape recorder. Don't do this, go do that, don't do this, go do that. And it was like the other gentleman, he was doing it fine, but for me, after a while, I felt like I could have just spoken into a tape recorder, press record, like the old tape recorders, and then put it on the bench and let people hear it. My conscience was telling me this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But for heaven's sake, Swami is the one who told me to do this. So it must be right. But my conscience was like, no. So I write a letter to Swami and I said, Swami, I know you told me to do this speaking, but I feel like I'm a tape recorder. If something doesn't change, I'm going to stop doing this. And I was like that. That's how I spoke to him. And so I got it in my head, I'm going to go to Darshan, and until he takes my letter and speaks to me, I'm not going to go anywhere until the Sevadals take me out. So I go to Darshan and I sit there, and Swami had come for Darshan, didn't take my letter. He took people in for interview, and I'm sitting there, and in another 15 minutes, I have to speak in the building. Time is ticking. And I'm like, come on, Swami, come on, Swami. Finally, just 10 minutes, 7 minutes, or 10 minutes before it's time for me to go, the interview door opens, Swami ushers everyone out. Pretty much everyone was gone except a few people, and I'm still there like a crooked nail sitting there waiting for Swami. So Swami looks over and he sees me there. I'm getting up on my knees and I'm praying, Swami, please come. And Swami comes and he walks right up to me and he goes, what's the problem? And I go, Swami, I speak at the public relations office and I'm speaking like a tape recorder. I don't want to do that. Huh? And Swami always does that with me. He makes me say it more 3 times. Because he wants to make sure, is this what you really say? Is this what you really mean? And he goes, huh? And I said, Swami, I'm speaking like a tape recorder, and I can't do that. And Swami goes, huh? And I said it for the 3rd time, and then he just takes his hand, he puts it on my shoulder, and he says, just think of me, and I will speak through you. And what Swami was saying is, no, I'm not an intermediary. He's not talking about that. He's saying, if you think of him, the love that it is him can speak through you. So Swami turns and goes back, and I'm in bliss from this, from him speaking so sweetly. And that bliss was the answer. What made me want to stay in the ashram and not go outside? Just Swami, the relationship I got with Swami, the dedication that I put into knowing more about him. And I knew exactly, I'm running now back to the place, and I go, and from that moment onward, not only did I say what Swami told us to say, but I started to speak about my experiences. Because that's what made people then come after I talk. Oh, Swami did that? What is it like? Why should this and why should that? Why does Swami do that? I mean, if you tell a child, I'm not saying people are children, but if you tell someone not to do something, they'll go do it. But if you tell someone what transformed you, what changed you, what you were and what you are now, that inspires. And that's what Swami does for all of us. He's an inspiration. We are all inspiration for each other. I think I'm out of time now. Okay. So that's how Swami introduced me to speak. And from this day onward, if I can speak about him, I can't stop. Because I love Swami so much. To talk about him is such an honor. It's something that I think is my meditation. The experiences that Swami gave, the time that Swami gave, is the thing that holds me and keeps me together. It makes my focus. But most importantly, it's something that I love to share with all of you. It's something that I hope everyone is feeling. Because there's nothing more important than our relationship with the Lord. You know, again, the most important thing is this opportunity that we've gotten. Let's not forget about that. And I will then continue tomorrow through and share some more. But again, I wish to thank all of you for the patience and the love I see in all your faces. I love all of you as dear Swami. Thank you, Swami. Sayonara.